What to do about March Madness here at the Voice of College Football. Welcome in for our 6 o'clock call-in show that we do each and every Monday. Monday at 6 Eastern time right here at the Voice of College Football. Earlier today, we released our ACC football coaches rankings, so I would love to get your feedback on that as well. We will release a different Power 5 rankings of coaches each day. So I believe the Big Ten is up on Tuesday again. Every day this week, Monday through Friday, a different ranking from a different conference of coaches. And then once we get past spring practice, we'll start to release our player rankings as we rank every position in every conference. That's the goal. That's the goal. That's a lot of, there's about 11 positions per team. Per conference. There's 11 positions basically on a football field, something like that, 10 or 11 positions, 5 conferences. You know, it's a ton of videos. Let's say that. And then we would like to release again the top 5 at every position in every conference and the top 10 in the nation at every position. We'll see if we get to all of them. We got close to that a few years ago. Might have been about 5 years ago. I went on a rampage and produced a top 5 list of every position in every conference. I think I got them all done. And I've been a little bit on the lazy side in recent years. So that will be our attempt to rate the players in college football and rank the players in college football following spring practice. But for right now, we're focusing on the coaches this week. And we released the ACC. Would love to get your feedback on our ACC coaches rankings. But again, what to do with March Madness. That's the topic of today's show, with a bit of a wink, wink, tongue in cheek, being a little sarcastic here. I hope everybody gets that, because I've received all sorts of college basketball calls for the last few weeks. And my response has been amusing to some, matter of fact to others. So you make the call. You make the call on my response to the college basketball calls. Should I hang up? Should I berate them? Should I make fun of them? Which is kind of the same. Should I yell and scream and kick them off the phone? Should I be nice and kind and answer their question? Shop Amazon. Use the link in the description section of all the videos there, so you can go to any video and grab the Amazon link in the description section of the videos. And I need to actually place that link in the live chat every time, because this is a major factor in building the channel. So please grab the link in the description section when you shop Amazon, because we know 2 things. We know how many people watch my videos, which will hopefully be about 10 times as many next year as are right now. But we also know that Amazon gets a ton of traffic from all of you and others. So if you use the Amazon link when you do your shopping, it's going to help us build the channel. So we're taking your calls at 860-499-3332. Anything's on the table regarding college football. Is anything on the table regarding college basketball? Well, that's up to you. Let's see what the responses are so far in taking college basketball questions and calls here. Eddie's here. Great to see Eddie. So we just finished up a live show. The reason we were a couple minutes late, this happens all the time. This is my fault. This is my deal when I schedule, especially back-to-backs, where we hit a 5 o'clock Eastern time on the Miami channel, talking Miami football, then bam, right back over here. I got to set up the call-in studio, and we crank it up for a 6 o'clock live show right here. We got the Rod Favre on the line too. Happy birthday to Rod. You guys want to hear me sing? Should we all sing together? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear the Rod Favre. Happy birthday to you. Any more? Rod, what you got here? More transfers out of Michigan. Yes, we cut a video and posted it on the Michigan channel concerning their return ace, Giles Jackson. 26 yards per kickoff return with a couple touchdowns. He scored 3 touchdowns 2 years ago, one of those against the Buckeyes, one against Rutgers, one against Maryland. So Giles Jackson moves on from Michigan, and you would have thought that he would have had a good shot at big-time playing time with Cornelius Johnson and Ronnie Bell, in particular, being their top 2 threats at wide receiver, or at least their most productive players coming back. Meanwhile, Henry To'o is still in play for Ohio State, and I still need to figure out how he pronounces his last name. And please don't tell me pronunciations in the live chat, because you're kind of wasting your time, because I will forget them. For me, it's not being able to pronounce the name. It's not remembering how to pronounce the name. And now that I haven't said, right at the time when DJ Uiagalelei was playing for Trevor Lawrence, when Lawrence got hurt, or he didn't get hurt, he had a COVID positive test, correct? At the time that Trevor Lawrence was out and DJ was playing, then I learned how to say his name and remembered how to say his name. But I haven't said it much since the end of the season. So I believe it's Uiagalelei. But To'o is how it's spelled there, with the T-O apostrophe O times 2. But Alabama's in play. Ohio State's in play. I don't know. The Rat Farva, is anyone else? I thought there were a few other teams, but they're not coming to mind right now that he's considering. But Nick Saban in Alabama could be a destination, and he was definitely close to signing with Alabama when he first came out of high school. But that boy can play. Yes. Hey, Cheryl. Good to see you. Thanks for moderating. We picked up another moderator. I think it was Louie. I gave him the credentials, I believe, to moderate. Louis, if he's in the chat, he was in the last live stream. Will have to let me know if I did that correctly. There's a little drop down, add as moderator. I did that. All right, we've got Ace 2. Michigan football is Kansas tier until Harbaugh leaves. You know, I do understand the angst against Harbaugh. If you're a Michigan fan, I understand the angst. If you're a other than Michigan college football fan, I understand the ridicule and the laughter and the abuse that you give Jim Harbaugh. But let's understand that, okay, Michigan went 2-4 last year. They were awful. Okay, they were awful. They did only play 6 games. And the season was what it was. They played just like everybody else. So I'm not giving them a pass for being awful, because everybody played some semblance of a season, whether you played 6 games or 10 games or 12 games or whatever it was. And Alabama won a national championship, so it's just as valid as any other national championship. And different teams performed at different levels, and Michigan performed near the bottom. So I'm not giving them a pass, but still, it was a 6-game season. Okay. Before that, Jim Harbaugh has gone 10-3, finished in the top 10. 10-3, finished in the top 10. 8-5, finished outside the top 25. 10-3, finished just outside of the top 10. 9-4, finished around 15th in the country. So basically, he had 5 seasons where he finished in the top 15 in the country 4 times. And I'm not saying that that's acceptable, winning championships. They're not close to that. They're not close to that, and they're getting further away. But if you look at the job he's done start to finish, yeah, they're at their worst point now until they prove otherwise on the field. The recruiting's been good. The last class was surprisingly pretty first rate as a top 10 class. But they're going to have a rough time this year. But if you just take that 2015 through 19, it's not good enough. They were paying him top dollar to win championships, but it wasn't awful. It was top 15 in the country. Hey, Ballard. What's going on? Michigan, a basketball school. Yes. Are we down to the Final Four? We're down to the Final Four, correct? Or are there more games tonight? No, wait a minute. We're in the Elite Eight, right? We're in the Elite Eight, and there are games tonight to get to the Final Four next weekend, or the Elite Eight or next weekend, correct? Yes, I believe. Marquis says, nice ACC coaches video. I didn't know most of their names. Interesting info on each. Appreciate that, Mark. It was quite the lengthy video, but we are exhaustive here. You know that. Here's the voice of college football. So this is something that I believe I skipped last year. I typically get to this every off season, a ranking of the coaches in every conference. So the Big Ten's up tomorrow. Got the Big Ten tomorrow, and we will knock off the rest of the conferences throughout the week. The Rod Favre wants to call about spring training. You know, that's I won't go into my baseball fandom, but for as much as I'm into college football and for as much as I've loved college football my whole life, for as much as I know about college football and all that, and remember scores and teams and players and all that deal and know the history, at one point in my life, it's kind of tough to tell because people have always asked me, Mark, what's your favorite sport? Now they just assume it's college football. So nobody asks me that anymore. But for a long time, people would always ask me because they would hear me go off about a particular team or about the NFL, or so they just assumed, oh, well, he knows all this about the NFL. That must be his favorite sport. But then I would say, no, not necessarily. And my answer was always, it's a tie. It's a tie between the NFL, college football, and Major League Baseball. But man, I can't even explain being as big a baseball fan as I was from 1978, that the last couple of years, it's just dropped off the map. I don't even know what's going on. I don't know. I turned on the MLB network, not intentionally, but I turned it on. I was flipping around and came by the MLB network the other night, and they started talking about teams, and I was like, I'm lost. I don't know what they're talking about. And I just went on to something else. That would have never happened. I bought the Major League Baseball extra innings package every year that it came out from the time that I knew about it. I don't know when it started, but from like 2005 until I think 2 years ago. I even bought it 2 years ago. I think last year might have been the first season that I did not purchase the extra innings package, not just to get the Indians games, but just to see any Major League Baseball games. I remember the first time I had it, it was opening day. And by the end of opening day that night, I was sitting there and I was thinking, this is the greatest thing ever. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I've got Major League Baseball games on all day. I just thought it was, yeah, I was just blown away. Mark wants me to show some kindness. Okay. Try a little kindness. Eddie's going with the hang up, of which I'm not going to get any calls if I don't. We've lost our signal here for a second. Okay. 860-499-3332. And I need to get that up on the screen. There we go. But what else do we have here? That was going to lead me into another story, and now I forget what that was. Phil B is looking for a quarterback battle between Jordan Travis and Mackenzie Milton. I know that our guy Logan Robinson's take on the first scrimmage was that Mackenzie looked a little sketchy. little shaky at times, and Jordan Travis played well. Yes, Ralph Sampson. We got Nate the Great here, or Nate the hopeful Wolverine fan. It's good to be hopeful, Nate. At least you're not the depressed Wolverine fan. I think at one point you were the depressed Wolverine fan. Good to be hopeful. Good to be hopeful. Now I'm a bit irked because I had a story to share, and I'm sure you all would have been just spellbound by my riveting story. So anyway, we were talking about favorite sports. All right, let's toast media. Go Blue, Michigan National Championship in basketball. Could be, I guess. Oh, look at this. Now, see, I'm going to have to put this in play. Everyone let me know. If I listen to Eddie, we know what's going to happen, because so Dominic, if Dominic's listening right now, does Dominic actually realize what's going on here? I have asked all of you to tell me what to do. It's in your hands. What should I do when I get a college basketball call? Hang up, scream and yell at them, kick them off the air, berate them, be sarcastic, whatever, or be kind. Mark says be kind. Eddie says hang up. And then we've got Dominic, who's surely going to be calling about the NCAA tournament. So here we go. I'm going to be checking out the comments to see who wins on this one. Dominic, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Doing good, Mark. How are you doing?
I am doing just fine. Appreciate you calling. What's going on?
I am not too happy right now because Alabama choked UCLA last night in the NCAA tournament.
Alabama choked against UCLA. So you're an Alabama fan, I take it. It's kind of hard to keep track of you, Dominic. I've seen Alabama, Georgia, all sorts of teams represented.
Yeah, but I don't know how Alabama choked. So can I get my thoughts on that game last night between UCLA and Bama?
Well, did you see the title of my live stream tonight? Did you see what we're debating here?
Yeah, I saw the title, but I'm not sure what we're debating.
Yeah, so basically, I'm leaving it up to the audience, you viewers, to determine how I should treat college basketball calls. So we've got a few options. I can either hang up, or I can possibly have a very spirited response. I'll put it that way. I'll be nice, or I could just be kind and just listen to the phone call, even though this is, of course, the voice of college football. But until I get a clear, definitive answer from the live chat, Dominic, we'll let you pontificate about Alabama's choke against UCLA.
So you're just going to let me give my thoughts on that game? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So UCLA 88-78 win by 10 over Bama. So Bama was leading in the first half, but then UCLA turned around with their offense and got 40 points in that first half. But Bama came back around and tied it up. I thought they were going to win that game, but it was an interesting overtime. So congrats to UCLA on that win. Honestly, I think they deserve it more than Bama. UCLA, number 11, heading into the Elite Eight. They're playing Michigan, so we'll see how that game goes. And that's pretty much all I got to say.
Okay. I had the game on, actually. I wasn't paying attention to it. I would lift my head every so often to see who was up. But Yeah, I saw that UCLA ran away with it in overtime.
Yes, that is true.
All right, Dominic, anything else on your mind?
That's pretty much it, Mark. You have a great call-in show.
Thank you, Dominic. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Dominic, laying down some hardcore college basketball analysis there. Very nice. Got some good live chat banter going on here. And when you guys get a chance to watch the ACC video, let me know about my coaches' rankings. John Sarian, the irony is that Jim Harbaugh can't secure good quarterbacks consistently. If he did, the joking would even be less accurate. Yeah, no good quarterbacks. At Michigan. Nate, thank you so much for chiming in. And my response to Dominic was determined by Nate. Nate is calling the shots here. Just let me know right in my ear. Be nice, Mark. Take the call. Let Dominic have a chance. So, Nate, Dominic has you to thank. We've got the Ace 2, who suggested tell them this is a college football channel. Thanks for calling. Mike, that's pretty much typically my approach right there, Mike 3883. That's, I guess, kind of my style. You want to say kind sarcasm. We do that from time to time during these calls, even about college football. There's some kind sarcasm that many of you catch on to, and others just think I'm being kind. So there's a little bit of both there sometimes. Sea-Dog West, hang up. It's a college football show. This is the voice of college football. We talk college football every day. Every day. We got videos out every day. This morning's, again, were ACC coaches rankings. Lewis wanted a hang up. Sea-Dog West, thank you so much for appreciating, and thank you so much for recognizing what we do here every day. It's college football analysis, debate, discussion, that you are all included. You guys make it happen. So what I enjoy, I love talking college football. I love breaking down college football. We just had a show on the Miami channel concerning Miami, of course, but we also talked ACC. So I started talking about my rankings of ACC football coaches, and just let people know this is what I enjoy doing. I love breaking down analysis of sports, college football in particular, and then you guys respond, and we have great discussion and debate. And what I do enjoy even more than that is coming on here and talking directly with all of you, as I am here in a second from the hopeful Wolverine fan. So, Sea-Dog West, thank you for appreciating and recognizing what I do, but this only works because of all of you. And I hope that we've provided a place here where you guys get connected as well. And it's a big community, big family here where everybody gets connected. So I love when I hear that I met somebody on your show, on your live chat. So that's been brought to me a number of times where somebody said, yeah, I'm now buddies with this person, or I now connect with this person because we found each other here. So I'm not necessarily going to turn this into any kind of dating site, but it's nice to hear that people are connecting. All right. We got our hopeful Wolverine fan chiming in for the night. Welcome to the voice of college football.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Hey, Nate. I'm doing well. Good to hear from you. What's going on?
Not much. I just got home from whole school, and I just want to talk about like I know Wolverine fans are having Wolverine football fans having a rough I wouldn't say season, but like overall Harbaugh era. But I want to talk about what it means to be a Wolverine fan. It's like it's like tradition that never that never ends. But I would say like it. What I mean by that is that we don't change our culture. We keep it the same, but unless Harbaugh gets fired, we don't. I don't want to like start a new tradition. Well, new tradition. And just saying I want to keep it the same, but not by coaching. But I want coach to be better. But I don't know if that's going to be a reality. But yeah.
So Nate, how would you describe the Michigan culture? You said something about the culture being the same at Michigan.
Yeah, what I mean by that is like I don't want like I don't know if you heard if I know when Urban Meyer was on Fox Sports News or whatever it is, he says start a new culture, and that's what he said on Fox News before a game. But if you saw that, I was like, I don't know about that. But I mean, I just don't want the culture to be new. I mean, well, maybe coaching wise, but the culture itself is like home, like it's traditional. It's like it's historic. So I mean, like Ohio State stadium, it's like it's historical, and it's a national. National. Well, not mine, man. Like a national, whatever tour. Or it's popular. I would say. Sorry. Yeah, I was just want to call in about like how Michigan needs to, not change its culture, just stay the same, and I don't want it to be new. So yeah.
How many consecutive wins would it take, Nate, for Ohio State to continue to beat Michigan to where you would drop Michigan as a fan and become an Ohio State fan?
Well, I'm not going to do that.
Well, that's great to hear, Nate. I love fans that are loyal regardless of the wins and losses.
Yep. If they lose, they lose. I mean, I'm not like those hardcore. Well, maybe, but I'm not one of those fans that say if you lose, that's BS. And I'm the one of those fans that say, oh well, you lost. But
yeah, you don't get upset about the games. Is that what you're saying?
No.
That's good.
No.
It took me about 50 years to learn that.
But well, unless we lose the Ohio State, that's a different story. But yeah. So my other question was my first question, like before I go, I know I'm not a Ohio State fan, but I'm just curious who you think is the starter for Ohio State QB, or if you had rumors.
Nate, we talk about this every week on our Ohio State live show. I bring on 3 of the very best to talk about that, and they don't even know. We've got to watch these guys play. Ask me after the spring game. I've got to see these guys throw a
Okay.
football. I haven't seen any of them throw a football, and none of them. So Nate, this is going to be the first time in 50 years that there's going to be an Ohio State quarterback who has never thrown a pass be the starting quarterback. Nobody on the roster has ever thrown a pass in a college game.
That's wow. I mean, if I'm an Ohio State fan, I'll be like, I just hope he's gonna be good. But well, I'm not a Ohio State fan. I'm just giving an example. But yeah, thanks for taking my call. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it. All right. Next up, we've got somebody calling about Georgia Clemson week 1. And then we'll get to a Gators owned question about the Florida offense this year, which Gators owned. I hope you catch our conversations with Jackie Franchuli and David Waters. We've got some great content on Florida football over the last few weeks. My thought is that it's going to be difficult for Dan Mullen to turn an offense that was run and gun, throw it down the field as well as anybody in college football with a guy that could really get out of his hand quickly, and Kyle Trask, to a completely different wide receiver core. Emory Jones at quarterback, who was more impressive the year before the 2 previous years in the sub packages that he played than he was to me last year. Looked like he kind of regressed. All right. We got somebody on the line talking Georgia Clemson. Yeah. Who's on the line?
Hello, I'm Ben, and I was calling, talking about, do you believe, and I have my opinion on this, and I'll expand on it, but do you believe the winner of Georgia Clemson is virtually a lock to make the play?
Well, if it's Clemson, it certainly is, because that's their toughest game of the year by far. Yep.
Yeah, I look at it this way. When I look at Georgia, because I've been following, I watch every single snap of every game last year, and I've been following everything with the recruiting. When I look at Georgia, the rest of their schedule, I don't see a losable game. I don't see an opponent outside of Florida. Every opponent on their schedule, I don't know what Auburn and Tennessee, their programs are on the downcline, with guys transferring out, with new coaches. So I just look, those programs aren't, everyone thought Tennessee was on the uprise the past 3 years with their recruiting, and they thought over the years Pruitt was finally going to get together, and obviously that was a debacle. And also the same with Auburn with Gus. I mean, I look and think long term you had to get rid of Gus, but now with Carson, maybe in the long term it'll be better, but in the short term, to me, Georgia's only competition is Florida, who's going to be on the downturn for this year compared to last year. They won't have the quarterback, the offensive line, their whole offense they're replacing. And their defense didn't really scare many people last year. And when you look at Georgia talent-wise, to me, they should be able to win that game. Outside of Clemson, if they win that game, they should go 12-0. And that's where I think it's going to be interesting with the 14 playoff talk. If Georgia goes 12-0 and then loses to Alabama, if they get to the SEC title game, to see what happens with the playoff there. Because we haven't had one of those scenarios yet, at least in my memory, because when Alabama got in and won the title versus Georgia that one year, they didn't even win their division in the SEC. So I'm very curious to see if Georgia were to win week 1, even with the loss against Alabama, presumably if they played in the SEC title game, if they would not make the playoffs.
Yeah, Ben, so you're right. We've not had a situation in which a team lost a conference championship game and made the playoff. That has yet to happen. So I say Clemson's in really good shape because they, of course, play in the weaker conference. But as you mentioned, Georgia's competition in the SEC West is Auburn, of course, whom they play every year. And I believe they're coming up on Arkansas. It's going to be their other non-division opponent, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. I think they play them at home this year.
Yeah, so it's Arkansas. So they should win that game. And I'm right there with you. I was starting to talk about it as I took your call, that just Dan Mullen having to turn this offense over from, we're thinking like a 65-35 pass run ratio to the complete opposite with Emory Jones, that it's going to be difficult for them to, and they've not recruited on Georgia's level. I think last year's looking like a one-year aberration in which Georgia basically blew the division because they made a bad decision in developing quarterbacks and choosing quarterbacks. and lost the head-to-head. But yeah, I think they're in great shape. I think either team, Ben, is in good shape as long as they don't lose decidedly. If it's a great game, as we all anticipate, like a 38-35 game, I don't think the loser's going to be in some bad shape. The playoff committee's barely going to register. As long as the other team,
Yeah, I would agree with that.
As long as the other team does what it's supposed to do and is expected to do. You know, if Georgia loses 38-35 and Clemson goes out and wipes out the ACC and finishes undefeated, then yeah, it's going to be judged as you lost to one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country. Big deal. And it was a great game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I would also say, like, this game, to me, would also, when I look at the game itself, it's going to be, which I don't know if many people have talked about it, but the game is very similar. When you look at their strengths and weaknesses of both teams as well, I think in every area, the big weaknesses on both sides of the secondary's got a lot of unknowns, especially Clemson at safety, Georgia more at corner. And then you look at Georgia and Clemson, I think on the offensive side, even without Pickens, because Clemson could be without Ross. So it's kind of similar in that regard. The offensive line, to me, Georgia's more talented, but we don't know who the 5 guys will be outside of Sawyer. At left guard should be very good, but the rest of the 4 guys and where they're placed, that's going to be the key to that game to me, is who's Georgia's offensive line. Because if Georgia can hold up Clemson's 4-man front, I don't see how they both lose the game and also don't make the playoffs. If they're able to maintain Clemson's defensive line, considering how bad they were as their offensive line was, especially running the football in that Mississippi State game when JT Daniels finally played. Which who knows if JT could have played weeks before. That's going to be the biggest mystery in Georgia football in recent memory, why he didn't play or when he could have played. But when I look at Georgia, their offensive line, that mystery is going to be the key to that game. And to me, their season. If Georgia has their best 5 offensive line out there, I really don't see them losing week 1. I don't think they'll blow them out by any stretch, or that game could be a blowout by any stretch. But Georgia should be able to win if Murphy and Brzee and those guys can't get consistent pressure. Because there's no better defensive line in the country to me than Clemson, especially with another year, those young guys without having to deal with the COVID issue as much. Clemson's defensive line should be the best in college football. And if they can hold up them, I mean, everywhere else, they look at linebacker and safety, that's where Georgia's going to attack them. They have tight ends and running backs, even without Pickens. Clemson's weakness is safeties. They're going to use Arian Smith because he's fast. He's very fast. They're going to use him over the top. They're going to use their tight end in Washington and they're running back Cook out of the backfield with the linebackers and safeties. And I think a similar thing Clemson's going to do with Georgia, who struggled last year in coverage at linebacker and at times with safety. So to me, the game is very similar. It's going to come down to if Georgia's offensive line plays at an elite level, I think they'll win. If not, I would go Clemson in about a touchdown game.
Yeah, it's pretty strong analysis there. Clemson, like you say, with the guys that you mentioned, probably the best defensive front in the nation. Why are you making the comment about Justin Ross possibly not playing?
Well, because he hasn't been cleared yet. So, and his injury, we don't know. He could play, he could not play. Because I believe, it was a severe neck injury, and they said he might not be. I think Dabo said in a press conference, like, he won't be cleared till at least August.
Okay.
They're not working him in the spring. So I don't know if he's going to play or not. He might be a full go. He may not. I just know his injuries. Well, it's hard to predict, just like George Pickens. Or George, I know he's not going to play week 1, but George, from all reports from everywhere I've seen, his ACL tear was relatively clean. So if the recovery goes quick, because we never know with ACLs, he could be back by the Florida game. Obviously, it's not the Clemson game. It won't be as meaningful. But with George as well, you don't know. He may play this year, he may not. But I know Justin, from all accounts, he's not cleared yet. But I think as of today, I think he'll probably play. But I have no clue. I just know he's not been cleared yet.
All right, good stuff. I think it's by far the best matchup in the non-conference and probably the best, including conference games, in terms of just sheer talent being on the field for both teams.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, Mark.
Appreciate it, Ben. Have a good night.
Yeah, you have a good one.
Got a first-time caller there, I believe, Ben, talking Dogs and Clemson Tigers, of course, September 4th in Charlotte. And Yeah, we had quite a bit of content that we've released recently on the Clemson and the Georgia side, breaking this one down. And of course, we will continue to look at that throughout the summer, and gave us a bit of an update based on what Dabo said concerning Justin Ross not playing and being cleared. Hopefully that will happen in August. Good to see everyone in the chat. Yeah, Jordan Bowman here. Justin Ross is not cleared for contact. He's supposed to have his final doctor's visit to get to the final okay in June. Somebody asked me in here how much money or how many points I would need to get with Miami against Alabama to throw 1,000 on the Canes. There it is, Falcon ERX. To put 1,000 on Miami against Alabama. Oh my goodness. Alabama beats good teams by 28 points. They beat Texas A&M last year by 28 points. I need 35. I'm not saying Alabama's going to win by 35, but to throw $1,000, yeah, I'd need 30. Give me 36 which saves me against a 35-point spread. There you go. I've got to think that the spread on that game is going to be, it should be about 21 is what it should be. I think Alabama was about a 24-point favorite against Auburn last year, and they covered. The Rod Favre, I can't think of a more hyped game than Georgia Clemson myself, and deservedly so. All right, folks. Number is 860-499-3332. Believe we've got a call coming in right now. Don't know who this is. Hey, it's the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, it's Navy Thomas, buddy.
Oh, Tom, how's it going?
Dude, I just wanted to tell you today, I spent about an hour listening to 3 of the coaches from Nebraska football. It started with the head coach, Scott Frost, Lubick, the offensive coordinator, and the defensive coordinator. He's a defensive coordinator. I'm not really impressed. So I just wanted to share that.
You're not impressed.
I thought about sending them to you.
What in particular were you not impressed with?
I thought about sending them to you.
Yeah?
I thought about sending them to you, but nothing impressive to me at all. So I just thought I'd cover it because I see you're on, so thought I'd give you a shot. So talk to you later, buddy.
All right, Navy Thomas. Appreciate that. Oh, Navy Thomas, it's going to happen for you one of these years, I guess, with Nebraska football. Haven't won a conference championship since what? 1999? Even when they made the national championship game in 01, did not win the conference, lost 2 Big 12 conference championship games as they exited the conference, and then lost a Big 10 championship game, embarrassed by Wisconsin in 70 points. Their first or second year in the Big Ten. Second year in the Big Ten. All right. Yeah, the Georgia run on recruits recently has been pretty crazy. They scarfed up a couple top 50 players in the last few days. Want to remind everyone that we've got team-specific channels for 7 teams in the SEC. Alabama, Auburn, Texas A&M, LSU, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida. We've got an SEC channel. We've got Clemson, Miami, Florida State, and North Carolina covered out of the ACC. We got Notre Dame. We've got an Ohio State channel. Michigan, Penn State, Nebraska. We've got Texas and Oklahoma. We've got Oregon and USC. I believe we've got 22 team-specific channels. Check them out because we've got, in addition to the content that you see here for those specific teams, we've got fresh content, new, unique content over there as well from myself and others. So you don't have to listen to me all the time. All right, let's see what we got here. We got robberies of all time as well as the first 3 bullets that we'll put up. I don't know where this is coming from, but again, our voice recognition is letting us down. But I believe we've got Kevin online from Dallas, Georgia.
How you doing this evening, Mark?
I'm doing just fine, Kevin. If you guys could only read what these voice recognitions spit out and show me on this screen, it's never anything close to what you guys want to talk about. How are we doing tonight?
Doing great. As far as the bullets, I'll if you allow me, as far as hit the bullets first, then as far as my question, and that is, Georgia, indulge all of us to win one first. Let's don't win the next 3 to 4. Win one national championship for the first time, and I don't know, 50 or 60 years, but who's counting? In reference to the point spread, Mark, I have to be honest, as far as that Miami-Alabama game, I'm leaning heavy on the defense, but when it comes to the offense, I could possibly see 17 and 19 maybe, as far as the line. I would feel comfortable with that and them covering the 17 and 9, because the thing is, I'm just looking at all as far as the holes of the field, as far as skill position. I mean, the talent's there, but it's just a matter of, simply as far as, hey, the best thing about a freshman is being a sophomore, et cetera, et cetera. What I wanted to ask you about was as far as top rivalries of all time. And wouldn't it be safe to say, as far as when it comes to those top rivalries, although it pains me to say this, that Notre Dame will be included in, say, maybe 3 of the 4 rivalries of all time?
3 of the top 4?
Well, no, I'm not talking about, but I'm just talking about, say, for instance, if I said, say, for instance, we'll say 8. And of those 8, or 10 for that matter. Okay, let me do it pains me to say this, Mark, so I'm going to shoot them out.
Okay.
Notre Dame, USC.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, USC.
Sure.
Notre Dame, Michigan. Notre Dame, Michigan State. Or would I be reaching with the Notre Dame, Michigan State?
I think you're reaching, because we've got
USC
and UCLA, Auburn, Alabama, of course,
Alabama,
is first
Auburn,
or second. Ohio
Miami,
State,
Florida
Michigan,
State.
Florida State, Miami, Florida State. Shoot, even I'm going to put Georgia, Florida over Notre Dame and Michigan State.
Okay, Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska.
Yes, Oklahoma, Nebraska. It's kind of odd to try to rank these old rivalries that no longer get played, like Oklahoma and Nebraska, but that was mammoth.
I mean, how often can you be called the game of the century? I mean, I've often heard Mark, as far as game of the decade or game of the weekend or game of the conference season, but game of the century, I've only can recall, really hearing that and it carrying that weight and fulfilling that only one time. So, yeah.
And you're talking about the Oklahoma-Nebraska game?
Yes, sir.
In 71. Yeah.
And one other thought, Mark,
yes,
and it's in reference to Justin Ross. And I look at Justin Ross maybe 100 times higher as far as his situation that I did Jalen Waddle. I mean, I was mixed emotion as far as Jalen Waddle coming back after the Tennessee, after getting hurt against Tennessee. And as far as Ross is concerned, honestly, Mark, as you're quite aware of, I mean, hey, basketball is a contact sport, football is a collision sport. And by that being the case, unless he has a blanketed blank policy, which no policy can cover quality of life. if I was his parents, I would have to just ask them respectfully to do what he has to do to fulfill his degree requirements, then maybe another year at best try to pursue as far as a career as far as football. Because, Mark, I mean, as far as the neck is the neck, the spinal column, the nervous system is nothing to play with.
No. Yeah, we all talk about these players because we're not involved in their lives. We talk about them as commodities because we want to see them play. And okay, he got hurt in September, 9 months, boom, he should be ready, and we just kind of figure it out and throw him back on the field. Yeah, we're talking about quality of life for a lifetime for a 20-year-old.
Because I would hate for any fan that is from afar pushing them, Justin, you can play, Justin, you can play. And then when he gets hurt, then out of that the other side of their mouth, they're going to say, well, Justin was born with 5 senses, and I know that he has at least one parent that should have told him not to do it. And that's something that we need to step away from as far as and put ourselves in the position of a parent and say, hey, what's most important? Although he may have done this since day one as far as park ball and et cetera. But the thing is that, hey, quality of life. But again, Mark, as always, thanks for indulging me. Hey, you take care, continue doing what you're doing, and I will continue to listen on.
Appreciate that, Kevin. Have a good night.
Hey, thank you. Do likewise now.
All right, let's get to our next call, which is Gary calling on the Georgia recruiting class of 2022. Gary, how you doing tonight?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
Hey, just wanted to talk about the UGA next commit updated football college spring practice.
Yeah, what you got for us?
In some insider notes, spring 2 practice. What do you think?
I'm sorry, what was that, Gary?
Rusty, the quick hitter.
Gary, I'm going to have to apologize if you're a legit caller because those two responses I could not make out and seemed about sketchy. All right. Where are we here in the live chat? Here we go. Call coming in here. The voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, you got George here.
Hey, George, what's going on?
Hey, not too much. Just warm and tired Barlow, Schwab, Monty, and design bin formulas have over there at the Para Corpo Apple.
Yeah, we were there again. Could see that one coming. All right. 2 for 2. All right. Man, I hope, well, I really don't, but part of me hopes that, one day I get to a point in life where I've got nothing better to do, but then again, I would guess I would be a bit depressed about my status in life if I had nothing better to do than to call and make an asshole of myself. All right. All right, folks, what do we got here? Gators owned on the line. Let's catch up with the live chat. Yes, Louie. Love to get the scoop on Louie some night. Louie, where did you find us? When did that happen? Welcome to the Voice of College Football, by the way. Louie is in here all the time now, but He's rather new to the scene, I believe. So we'd love to know how long you've been watching and who you root for. Louis, 70 or 71, there was a big game in the rain, Texas, Arkansas. Yes, that was the one in which Richard Nixon wanted to call a play in that game. Wow, go Dogs. Georgia's the best program in all of college football. Well, they're working on it, at least. Georgia wins the off season. They get that done. They definitely get that done. All right. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Mark, this is Kevin again, and
Hey, Kevin.
I wasn't gonna call back, but it's just a matter that, hey, I just want you to know that all the viewers and listeners out there aren't morons. And although I don't know these particular gentlemen that have nothing else better to do with their time than to do what they did, on behalf of those that were blessed with 5 cents, we want to apologize.
Well, I appreciate that, Kevin.
And if you want to indulge in Mark, I'm gonna go on and step out there. After many nights of coffee and as far as burning the midnight oil, I'm gonna step out there and I'm gonna do my all-time Alabama team. Okay. Criteria as follows.
Okay.
Only can have one coach, no OC, no DC. As far as the quarterback position, as you already put out there, one quarterback. O-line, I only need 5 linemen. D-line, 5 linemen. As far as I haven't made a decision on whether it's going to be a 4-3-3-4, but I'm going to talk it out as I talk it out to you. And as far as my backfield, I'm going to have 2 running backs, but I don't know whether it's going to be I formation or whether it's going to be split back. Here we go. As far as my quarterback, I have to go on and say Pennsylvania's own Joe Willie Namath. No, I wasn't born at that time, but hey, I have to go and go with Joe Willie Namath as far as my quarterback. As far as at the running back position, initially I had 2, but as I'm talking it out, Mark, I'm going to stick with 1. And that one will be Derrick Henry. That'll be my running back. As far as my wide receivers are concerned, very, very, it was hard pressed. But I'm going to go with 2. One I would have to say prisoner of the moment, and then one I would have to say is the one who got this started back in 2009, or part of that 2009 class, and that is Julio Jones and Devontae Smith.
Mm-hmm.
As far as my O-line is concerned, I haven't filled out those other 2 spots, but maybe I can fill them out as I talk them out, and that's Baumhauer, Hannah, Stevenson, and I'm going to say Cam Robinson, which I say with gritted teeth, as well as that 5th spot, I'm going to say Jedrick Wills.
Mm.
I think that would have been, 2 years ago?
Sure.
As far as my tight end, Ozzie Newsome. As far as my D-line is concerned, just like a bride, hey, a little something old and something new. As far as on the old side, as far as those that led, the 2 guys that led Stallings as far as his national championship, that's Curry and Copeland. And then as far as the new part would be Allen, as far as Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne. Ooh, linebackers. This was also difficult. Off the top, I would have to say Derek Thomas and Cornelius Bennett. And if I'm going to go 3-4 look, it would be Reuben Foster, C.J. Mosley. Then as far as my secondary, I'm kind of stuck, but off the top, I would say Fitzpatrick and Eddie Jackson. Then if I would go back a little bit older school, I would be more so Jeremiah Castile. Would be Van Tippett. Oh, and pardon me, I would be remiss if I didn't say punter, and that would be J.K. Scott. And that's the best I could do, Mark. The best I could do.
Okay. That's almost an impossible task, of course. So you did a nice job. I didn't catch any glaring misses there. You could always serve up. And it's difficult, especially once you get into a certain, depending on your vantage point, depending on your age and your perspective of where football changed and where you truly believe that it's difficult to consider guys from the 20s and 30s and 40s. Guys like Don Hudson is an all-time NFL legend who played at Alabama, and you'll see him on lists. So it's you're obviously separating those players, and they're just difficult to rate and evaluate. Trying to think, you took it to a difficult place because you only went with one running back. You didn't even give yourself two running backs.
That's why I was hard. That's why I was had a little bit of difficulty because initially, Mark, I went to as far as my second back was going to be Mark Ingram.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But then if I did that, Mark, it would have to be a split back. I couldn't do the I formation, correct?
Well, you only went with two wide receivers.
Okay. Because I was just trying to figure as far as I couldn't see, I couldn't make a decision as far as who would be that front back as far as in the eye. So it would definitely have to be as far as a split back. So yeah, Mark Ingram will be the other one. I mean, it's kind of difficult because I could have possibly gone, Trent Richardson. God dog, I can't think of the young man from my hometown. The guy that caught the doggone touchdown in the flat versus LSU and Baton Rouge. I can't think of the young man's name.
T.J. Yeldon?
Well, yes, just simply because of that's T.J. Yeldon. That's it. That's for T.J. Yeah, he's from Daffin. That's about maybe, I guess about 8 minutes from my hometown. So, but then as far as definitely, as far as the first two, I don't think we could go wrong with Ingram as well as Henry at the I guess dual back position, for lack of a better way to say it.
Yeah. I'm going to go back about as far as I can remember. Well, this is before my time, Johnny Musso. And then after that, Sherman Williams, you mentioned Trent Richardson, Glenn Coffey. Yeah, the backfield's been loaded, obviously, since Saban took over. Cornelius Bennett came across my mind at linebacker as a possibility.
Why did I forget Biscuit now? That was the first two, Cornelius Bennett. And
you mentioned him. Okay, my bad. Okay, all right. Yeah, when you mentioned that last week, I got to tell you, Kevin, I didn't dismiss that request. I've been mulling that in my brain of the best way to do that, because I just know for me to do that for every significant program, like if I was going to do that along the lines of Texas, Alabama, Ohio State on down the line, that I could do it myself, or we could have a really fun discussion debate if I brought on 3 or 4 Texas guys, 3 or 4 Alabama guys, etc., and we kind of hashed it out and debated, and then got everyone involved with some kind of a vote. So I was trying to figure out how to do that.
But the one thing I have to ask you in reference to that, though, Mark, and that is, who would be the other 4 linemen? Because I was stuck when it came to the Buckeyes as far as that O-line.
Oh, the offensive line at Ohio State. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got
Pace. Is that Lachey? Was it Lachey?
Jim Lachey in the mid 80s. Jim Lachey had a huge career in the NFL as well. Corey Stringer had a big NFL. He would have had a big NFL career. He got off to a great start, and he was tragically cut down with the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, in training camp. Jim Stillwagon was an award winner, Lombardi Award winner in the early 70s. So was Chris Ward in the 76, 77, 78 range. You've got Nick Mangold at center, had a tremendous NFL career that just ended. I don't think he's still playing with the Jets, but he was several time an All-Pro. Nick Mangold from the mid 2000s. LaCharles Bentley was a great offensive lineman for Ohio State. If we want to go way back to an NFL Pro Football Hall of Famer, Jim Parker from the 50s, and also Lou Groza, who has the Groza Award, but he actually was a starting offensive lineman at Ohio State, an extremely good one. Yeah, those are the guys that come to mind right off the top of my head as being.
Well, that's solid. That is solid as far as that old line, because of the guys you named, Mark, I can only just readily remember three, and that would be Mango, Shea, and then also Pace. So, but those are strong in itself, right there, 3/5 of your line. I mean, that's not only all perennial All-Americans, but all pros too.
Yeah, the offensive linemen, they're difficult to give credit to. You can't go into stats and look at stats. Obviously, you just have to go by watching those guys play and reputation and how they've been judged and evaluated by coaches and media and all of that. So that's not always easy.
And in closing, in reference to Ohio State, Mark, and that would be, as far as your backfield, would your backfield be Archie Griffin and Eddie George?
So I hate to be lazy and just go with Heisman winners and just be the end of it. But if you're not going to select Heisman winners, then you have to have reason not to select them. You've got an uphill climb, especially with Archie, since he won 2 of them. Yeah, those are probably the two guys. Although Ezekiel Elliott was man for 2 seasons. Wow. He was so good. J.K. Dobbins
when I
went ahead.
initiated the conversation, Mark, it was 2 to 3 years, so that would fit the criteria.
Yeah, he was 2014 and 15, and I heard a ridiculous one of these stupid rules that people make up that they need to think through, and they don't, because when we had our Ohio State guys on, this was the last time that there was a player nomination for the College Football Hall of Fame. And then they were talking about Ohio State, and there's some type of recognition given to former Ohio State players that Ezekiel Elliott's not eligible for. And I said, why not? And it was because he was never a first team All-American. And there's some type of recognition given to the walk to the stadium at Ohio Stadium. And he wasn't given that because you have to be a first team All-American. And he wasn't, because the players in front of him those 2 seasons were Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey. And the other year was like Dalvin Cook, and it might have been Christian McCaffrey the other time, I forget. It was a ridiculous 3 or 4 running backs. And Ezekiel Elliott ran for 1,900 yards and 20 some touchdowns and had maybe the most remarkable playoff run of anybody in history, especially since the playoffs only been around for a few years, to where you have to play multiple games to win a national championship. But I'm going to get the exact numbers a bit screwed up, but against Wisconsin, Alabama, and Oregon in 2014, he ran for like 236, 220, and 246 in those 3 games to win the national championship. Now, if that's not coming through in the clutch.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hottest, 3 games that a running back has had. And would it be safe to say in the history of football or the college football?
I can't think of, because conference championship games haven't been around forever. And of course, the 2 playoff games. So, that's just unprecedented. And that's after a season in which he ran for just under 1,900 yards total. So,
Yeah, sometimes, Mark, it pains me to say this, but sometimes those that are in position should not think with a rational mind and just go by what they can see, and and put those quote rules on the back burner. But
yeah, you put criteria down.
You know,
Yeah, you put criteria down and say, we're going to look at all Americans. We're going to look at guys that won national champion. We're going to include all these things, not just say we have a rule and you can't be considered if you don't meet the rule. No, you say, well, we take all these things into consideration, but put things into context. Yeah. So
I've heard some schools say, okay, we won't put your jersey in the rafters because you haven't graduated. Now that's one thing. But as far as saying, okay, a person that had by far the hottest 3-game streak of a running back in quote the modern era and not be included as far as in your Hall of Fame, I mean, that's I just have to use the word travesty, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as always, hey, Mark, thanks for indulging me. I promise, I will not call again this evening. I'll call you
Kevin,
next time, but
I appreciate the purpose of your call after I had a couple clunkers to deal with there that you had my back, and I appreciate it so much.
All right, well, thanks. You take care and have a good evening. Look forward to talking with you.
That's our guy, Kevin, from Dallas, Georgia, talking up Alabama, and I always appreciate his take on the history of college football. And after Kevin brought that up last week, I have been putting this in my brain because I want to put it together with maybe something a little bit bigger than just me throwing out, here's our Notre Dame all-time team, because I love getting the perspectives of other people. I'll research it and do my due diligence and give it my take. But if we can have some Notre Dame experts on here, and all of us will give our lists, and then we'll take it from there and have a great discussion. Then we get everybody's contribution in the live chat, and maybe we take a vote. And it wouldn't be something where you'd have to fill out some kind of ballot, like you would have to fill in every offensive line position if you didn't want to. But you could vote for, we'd give you, okay, this is what the team is, and you can give, if you just want to vote for a quarterback just because you feel that strongly about Ron Paulus or whomever, Joe Theismann, then you make that vote and that's it. And then we tally up the votes and we release them, and maybe we make it part of our website launch. So I believe we've got a call coming in. We've got Jerry from Florida wanted to talk about Georgia Tech, or does he just want to talk about Georgia? This might be the voice recognition deal pulling a trick on us. Jerry, how we doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Hey, thanks, Mark, for taking my call.
Absolutely.
And, thanks to Kevin. Thanks to Kevin for calling in. Maybe it's time to make him a co-host. He does a pretty good job with his analysis.
Yes, he does.
I'm no Notre Dame expert, but just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stats of upcoming players here, specifically with UGA. What would your top 10 players be?
In the history of Georgia football?
No, I think in the upcoming season for 2022.
Oh, the 10 best players in the nation?
No, Georgia.
Oh, at Georgia, the 10 best players for the Georgia football team.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think you got Zamir White. You got Cook. You got JT Daniels, who you would have had George Pickens. You got Kyrus Jackson. I know Sawyer's one of your best offensive linemen coming back.
You think Sawyer?
Nakobe Dean, Nolan Smith, without really breaking it down, but just going through the layers on both sides of the ball. Are you a Georgia fan?
Yeah.
Do you have a top 10 for us?
Well, maybe not a top 10, but I guess looking at some of the who's looking to commit to UGA. I have some top players in mind.
Okay, who do you got?
Wide receiver. There's a guy coming in. His name is Kojo Antwi. I think that's how you say it. You know much about him?
I don't.
Another one, Addison Nichols.
So these are all players coming into the program in 2022 or 21, I mean?
I think 21. I could be wrong. And then the coaches for Georgia then. Tyler Booker's another one.
Okay.
And my last one is probably Branson Robinson.
Who was your last one?
I would say that's probably my Branson Robinson.
Okay.
Coming in from Germantown. That's probably my top 10.
So those are players coming into the program.
Hold on a second. I got to yell at my kids here. Get your ass out.
Why tonight?
All right. Sorry about that.
All right. Anything else tonight?
I told you. You're wrong.
Oh, good stuff. All right. Now we've got, I think we've got all sorts of folks now chiming in with all-time lists. I don't know who this is. This is Pete. Top 10 floor. Maybe that's Florida. All right. We got Gators owned here with Danny Werfel, Emmett, Percy Harvin, Riedel Anthony, that must be Jabbar Gaffney, Kyle Pitts, Aaron Hernandez on defense, Jack Youngblood going back a ways, unless that's Joel Youngblood. It must be Jack Youngblood. Floyd Dante Fowler, Javon Curse, Davis Spikes, Elam, right in the secondary with Joe Hayden, Vernon Hargraves. Yeah, a lot of good players there for Florida. Who we not hitting on for Florida? Anybody else? Going with Werfel over Tebow. Running back, Neil Anderson would be in there possibly as well for Florida. Okay. Good list out of Gator Zone there. Good job out of Gator Zone. All right. We got DeAndre on deck, but we're going to go to Peter, and we're going to see what Peter's got. Welcome to the Voice of College Football.
Hey, Mark, this is Gator Zone.
Oh, Gator Zoned. All right.
Yeah.
Just reading off your list. I'm doing just fine. How's it going?
Well, I kind of want to answer the question for Florida that you gave the last caller. The top 10 players on Florida's current roster.
Oh, top 10 players on the current roster. Okay. I didn't know where he was going. He started picking up guys that they had just signed, and then he's yelling at his kids, and then it became a comedy show. All right.
Yeah.
Top 10 coming into the program. Or top 10 on the current team. Yes. No, I want to hear this. Yeah.
Current. Yeah. So you got to start off with Elam. You have to. I mean, he'll be the best. He'll be one of the top 3-4 corners in Florida Gator history if they can get the right system going, and the players. It's just, if you look at the targets, nobody targeted him last year. Nobody had to. And then if you go off of that, you got Emory Jones, of course, Gervon Dexter, defensive linemen. You got Derek Wingo, who's going to be really good this coming season. And then you got to go with 3 running backs. You got to go with Damian Pierce, Malik Davis, and then you have to throw in DeMarcus Bowman. Then out on receivers, you got Frazier. Then out there, tight end, but watch out for Kamora Gamble. Made a lot of guys look like fools when they thought Pitts was taking a breather. And then outside of that, I'm going to finish it off with Ethan White, offensive line.
So with Gamble, there was some combination of some of the lesser games in the SEC East against the likes of, let's say, South Carolina. I thought that was a pretty competitive game for most of the way. Tennessee was for a time, and wasn't it Vandy that jumped out to a lead? But there were a couple games in the Swamp where he made some plays downfield that I was pretty impressed with. Emory Jones, I'm curious about the Emory Jones selection. Of course, he's the quarterback, so it's easy to point him out. But in terms of a top 10 player on the team, okay.
Yeah, I would. If I had to rank him, I would put him at 6.
Okay.
Out of the list I just gave you. Yeah, Emory Jones has a killer arm. Nobody has seen his arm strength. You saw a little bit against Oklahoma. But of course, we didn't have receivers that were catching the ball that day. Then another guy that they missed out in the bowl game was Whitmore. I don't know if you've seen him play. Played a few games against like Texas A&M early in the season. Kind of fell back a little bit whenever they got things rolling with Grimes and Shorter. But I would definitely put Emory Jones up there. He's secured his starting role. He's going to have a really good season. It's not going to be, obviously, you can't. I mean, this is a tough act to follow from college trash numbers. But I think he's going to attack you in a different way, and he's going to make, with a mature offensive line, with a stable of running backs that can go forward deep if they need to. In the SEC, I'm talking about true guys that can play on any roster in the SEC, at least be in the rotation. Florida's definitely going to run the ball a lot more to shore up the first and second down. But on third down, that's where we're going to start seeing, is Florida legit or not on offense. And then, of course, defense, I think they'll be just fine. I think they fixed some of their problems. If you go back and look at the years when we had Hargreaves and Keanu Neal, Ryan Poole, Keith Tabor on our team, we had communication issues back then, and we had the same corners coach that was coaching the Gators secondary last year. We were having communication issues again. Last year, we didn't have the talent like the aforementioned players. So I think the defense gets things right. I think Florida's got a good season out of them. Of course, the Georgia game is a pivotal one. But those players, you got to keep an eye on them, particularly Derek Wingo and Gervon Dexter. There's going to be guys that you're going to see in all SEC selections here soon.
So, Peter, Emory Jones' first play on the field was in 2019, correct? It's been 2 seasons that he's come in those same packages, right? 2019, 2020, right?
He played in Dan Mullen's first year.
Okay, 2018 as well. Okay, 2018. Yeah. All right. I thought it'd been quite a while, and that's why I asked. I thought maybe it was even back to 2018.
Kentucky was the third game of the year in 2019, and pretty much everybody thought it was going to be Emory Jones because he got so many reps in 2018. He was like in Mississippi State. He played against South Carolina and Missouri. Those two, pathetic first half games. But yeah, he got in the rotation pretty early as a freshman.
Yeah. So the reason I bring that up, Peter, is what I liked about the way they handled Emory Jones, Dan Mullen, was in comparing that to Justin Fields getting some playing time at the same time in the Georgia scheme with Jake Fromm, was that they would never let Justin Fields throw a meaningful. He wouldn't even throw the ball. If he did, he threw a couple out in the flat. Emory Jones, they allowed him to make some throws down the seam, some slants, some safe throws, but they were a little bit more stretching the field and legitimate throws. But they never really progressed past that, did they? So he's going to be asked to do a lot of things that he's never done in the passing game.
Yeah, he's only had 3 live fire blows. Remember against Auburn, Kyle Trask goes to the locker room after getting hit by I think it was Derek Brown. They let him go in there and they ran the regular offense, and he looked pretty good. There was a couple PIs that got called on Auburn that would have negated some big plays. But then, of course, LSU, same season, going into Death Valley against Joe Burrow's team, he got some reps as Trask was still nursing a little bit of an injury. They kind of utilized him at the goal line a little bit more, passing the ball. I know he threw the touchdown, that weird one to Michael Peterine and Pitts, and he threw it to both of them, and one of them came away with the ball. And then, of course, against Oklahoma, when Kyle Trask threw 3 interceptions in the first half, it pretty much gave him the keys to the car.
And Gators only brought up the 3 backs, Malik Davis, Damian Pierce, DeMarcus Bowman. So obviously you're going sheer talent with Bowman because he hasn't shown us anything as a top 10 player on the team. How do you expect those 3 guys to get utilized?
Well, it's hard to say. I think that Pierce is going to be your every down back until Bowman shows. I think that Malik is pretty much solidly second or third on the team. He will be your traditional scat back. He'll take some of those reps that Kadarius Toney utilized. Obviously not as elusive as Kadarius Toney. I don't think anybody has been in a long time at Florida. But I think that they're going to use him as a scat back. They'll put Pearson as the every down back, can catch the ball in the backfield, can block, can run, can do everything. It really comes down to the offensive line. As you well know, Florida's offensive line has been pretty pathetic for multiple seasons, even going back to the McElwain days. I remember McElwain used to comment going into the offensive line room was like looking at a bunch of dead fish. It's really been a cultural change that they've been working on. And this is finally the year where you feel like you have really solid pieces in every position. You got really highly talented players. And if you got a good system that can run the ball and pass the ball, I think that protects them a little bit, especially with the way Florida wants to do it. Kind of improvised runs and some spillbacks and stuff like that. And so I think Florida's offense is going to look very different than what we've seen from what Dan Mullen has shown at Florida. But I think it'll look a little bit similar to one of his last. I can't nail it. I think it may have been his last year at Mississippi State. The way they attacked Auburn down in the plains, stuff like that. They're going to try to spread the field a little bit on the 10 to 15 yard passes. But whatever defense wants to play up, you better watch out. Emory Jones can throw the ball on the run 50 yards. I've seen it a couple of times. He's an animal. If he makes the right decisions, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC.
Right, Peter. Appreciate the call. I'm going to get to a few other calls here. Thanks so much for running down some good takes on the Gators coming up here in 21.
Yeah, looking forward to it. See you, Mark.
Got DeAndre stopping by here. We'll get to this call from our man, BGPO Football Funk. DeAndre, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, Mark. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. What's on your mind?
Mark, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, DeAndre.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Mark. Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. We got you.
Okay. I love the last conversation you had with the guy from Florida. My question is, I saw 247 Sports come out with their deposits, and I went to a video that you did 4 years ago with somebody from that particular magazine. But he really didn't explain to us how they come up with that composite, because I saw like in DT, Vince Young, and Clowney. I think Clowney was the top one. And about 4 or 5 of them, they got perfect ratings. So my question is this: if Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be the best prospect since John Elway or Andrew Luck, and the 247 Sports or any other composites are supposed to be based off of like what you think they're going to project to when they get to the NFL, how is Vince Young over Trevor Lawrence? That this guy's supposed to be the best quarterback prospect since John Elway.
Okay, so are you talking about the 247 ratings themselves or their composite? Those are two different things.
I get what's the difference.
So
when you rank the players, like when Trevor Lawrence came out, and I can't remember who was with him, but it was like 1 and 2, depending on who you ask.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm asking. Like by ranking, how do they come up with it? And then how Vince Young hired? How didn't Trevor Lawrence have a perfect rating if he was supposed to be the best prospect since Andrew Luck or John Elway? But Vince Young did.
So if you look up any player in 247 Sports, you'll see 2 ratings. You'll see the 247 Sports rating, then you'll see the composite, and then they'll rank them based on their position. They'll rate them based on where they stand in the state, and then they'll rate them based on the overall ranking with all the players included, regardless of position. And the composite is a combination of 247 Sports, Rivals, and ESPN.
Right.
So let's say you're number 10, you're the 10th best quarterback according to ESPN, and Rivals has you 7th, and 247 has you 9th. They combine those and they come out with that rating. In terms of the actual 247 Sports rating, and you making that the comment about Trevor Lawrence, you said he had a perfect rating on 247 Sports.
No, he did not have a perfect rating.
Did not,
yeah,
but Vince Young did. Okay.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense if you're saying that, not you, but the sports writers say that Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be the best prospect since John Elway or Andrew Luck, but Vince Young had a perfect composite rating. Yeah, I think it was Trevor Lawrence and the guy at Ohio State. They were tied for 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like just depending on who you ask, they were both tied. So I just was wondering, how did they figure that out? But I mean, have you ever had anybody that explain that to you about the ratings?
I did ask one of the guys that was on at one point. I think it was Kevin Noon that explained. He's with Rivals on the Ohio State site, and he's really in depth on recruiting and has been covering it forever, how they come to list these specific ratings. And I know that there is, when you read, and I do this often, I'll read. So if you see all those numbers and all those metrics of that particular player on their recruiting page, let's say on 247, and if you go down, they'll have typically a large couple paragraphs from a scout. Like they'll say Joe Blow is the Midwest recruiting analyst for 247 Sports, and then he'll give a big description of what he's seen on tape or in person from whomever. Trevor Lawrence, has this kind of body type, and we project him to be able to fill it out to this body type, and he can make these throws, but he struggles with these throws, and go through the whole thing. And then they'll liken him to an NFL player. They'll say he looks like Andrew Luck, or he plays like Terrell Buckley if he's a corner, whatever. However, they just to give you an idea of his style of play and his measurables and how he plays. But I can't answer the question about the Vince Young and Trevor Lawrence, because I'm not up to
Trevor
date on
Lawrence.
their systems.
Okay. Next question. I'll let you go. Get everybody else a chance to talk. But I saw you talk about Clemson recruiting and the incoming players, and I saw some of the people talking about how Georgia beat Clemson out of 2 recruits, the 5-star safety and a linebacker. And I think what it is, I think it's 3 things. One, Clemson plays multiple defenses. So if that guy's playing the weak side, outside linebacker, I think what it is that Clemson's more moving to what you call multiple defenses. So I think that's why it stopped it. Like you look at Simpson or Brett Carter, they could play safety or linebacker. And I heard your comment about Anthony Simpson, about Simpson and Trotter. And I was like, well, Simpson was technically a safety. He played multiple positions. I mean, he really didn't have any position. And you see Simpson do that in a Notre Dame game. That's why I think the guy transferred. Second, Venables, to me, needs to stop playing his kids because his kids are not as talented as the other guys that are behind them. To me, especially that the linebacker number 17 and Trotter, I haven't seen Trotter play yet, but I think he's better than Venables' son. The next thing I think too is that Clemson is not putting linebackers in the NFL outside on the weak side. That I don't know what position they call it, but the middle linebacker and position Boulware used to play. You know, those guys didn't translate to the NFL. So I think that's kind of hurting Clemson in recruiting because you don't see these guys getting developed going to the NFL like they should. Not saying Venables is doing a bad job. I'm just saying that I think that's what's hurting them with their recruiting, with the linebacker spot. So
yeah, I think it's generally a bad situation when. I was just going to say, I generally think it's the potential for a bad situation anytime a son goes and plays for his father.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying it can't be done and can't be done fairly, but it's just not, you know, unless he's a superstar and he's just so good that it's like, okay, well, this guy's the best player. He needs to play. There just is always, you know, when you're talking about a roster that's full of that kind of talent, that even if the kid can play, he obviously can play to some degree, or it would be totally obvious that he was out of place. But, you know, to try to determine whether he should be getting the playing time that he does. Yeah. That's just a tricky situation that, I would be advising my son. For as much as I would love to see him every day, if I was a football coach, I'd say, you know what, go play in some other conference. You know, I for as tempting again as that would be, that you know, I could see my son all the time and help him with his career and everything else, and he'd be right there. It's easy for me to say because I haven't been faced with that situation, but I would, from that standpoint that we're discussing, would want him, you know, go play, you know, somewhere in the SEC, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think, and the same thing with the safety Turner. I know Dabo. I would have preferred those guys to move on, Scalzi, Turner, and Spector, and let those other guys get a chance to play because it seems like it's hurting Clemson in recruiting. Because you could have flipped the kid that transferred to LSU to the other side and got more speed. And Spector, not saying Spector and Scalzi are bad players, but I just don't think they're athletic enough to be honest with you. Now, their experience is great, and that's what you need a lot of time. But also, you need more speed, and that showed with the trouble that we had with LSU and Ohio State. Those guys, you know, got ran over. I mean, even with Scalzi in the game, Ohio State still was murdering us on that level when they got to that level. So, but Mark, I'll let somebody else just was in the gym, but I don't know why I'm not getting the notifications because I be wanting to talk to you. But
yeah, I got to look into that. You know what? I got to write that down because I keep meaning. I cleaned up the ads, so I got complaints about the ads, and I figured out how to limit the ads. And yeah, there were too many ads on these videos, and now, unfortunately, YouTube automatically puts them in there, and so then I got to go in there and like they'll put like 5 ads in one video, and I'll chop like 3 of them out, so there's only 2, or I'll chop 4 out, so there's only like 1 right in the middle or whatever. So I got to that. I guess the next thing I need to clean up these notifications to see if there's anything I can do about that. All right, DeAndre.
Because like I know sometimes I know on Saturday nights you used to call up so you begin there. All right, Mark, I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, DeAndre. Appreciate that.
All right, bye.
All right. I think we've done the damage for the night. Contribute to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. You can do that on PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo directly to the voice of college football. Just search Mark Rogers TV. The whole Mark Rogers TV thing is basically because when I started the YouTube channel, I didn't know I was going to talk about whatever sports I wanted to. So we just came up with Mark Rogers TV. But then the more we've it only took about a month before I decided I'm just talking college football. So a number of people called myself or the channel in and of itself the voice of college football. And I've told that story. Boom, voice of college football. So there we are. So anyway, PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo, Mark Rogers TV. If you search right there, thank you so much for the contributions. Amazon, you can do that as well. I have just a list of content I'm going to get to. So hopefully it's going to be content that you enjoy. This week, we are ranking the coaches in every conference. We did the ACC that was posted today. Check it out. The other 4 conferences are coming. Of course, we will constantly look at spring practice with all these teams. Keep in mind that there are videos that we're posting just on the team-specific channels. So, for example, Giles Jackson left Michigan today. I posted a video on the Michigan channel. So check out those team channels and lock it in on the team that you like. Or if you just want to help us build the channel, then go subscribe to all the channels, especially the ones that are getting close to 1,000. Thousands. The 1,000 mark is a key. So Nebraska, Oklahoma, Florida State are close. So give them a sub. Share the videos on social media as well. And any kind of requests or recommendations that you've got, hit me up at markrogerstv@gmail.com. I'm always accessible. I'm always here. Can talk to you guys anytime. So hit me up at markrogerstv@gmail.com if you've got any kind of a request or recommendation. And certainly if you've got a sponsorship idea, meaning contact with a sponsor. All right. We'll be back maybe tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Definitely Wednesday, 2, 6, and 8 Eastern. Ohio State at 2, Florida State at 6. The call-in show at 8 on Wednesday night. Appreciate all of you, and we will see you soon.